Hi y'all, this is Meyleen Velasquez. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a registered play therapist. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about family communication, especially when there's teenagers in the home. One of the most common things that I would hear when I was doing in-home therapy was that there was a lot of really difficult dynamics that would rise up between teenagers and their caregivers. And that often what that led to was an activation of the nervous system for everyone involved, which led to a lot of arguments and sometimes yelling and disrespectful behavior across the board. As I know for many clinicians, one of the most difficult things is engaging parents. I wanted to share a little bit about how I've worked with families before and what has been really helpful for me in supporting families to shift the way that they communicate with each other. And so as with most interventions, I'm going to begin first having a conversation with the family without my client present or without the children, the teen present. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask information regarding the dynamics of the communication. I'm going to listen to what the family's sharing. I'm going to take notes as to, what usually happens. And I want to know what are the situations that trigger confusion, that trigger arguments, that trigger anger and frustration. How does everyone involved react? If there's two or more caregivers in the home, I also want to know, are they usually on the same page? Or is one person saying something and the other one saying something else? And I also want to know if there's something that's going well or that went well in the past. During the session, of course, I'm always thinking of trauma, so I'm going to assess for any distress that the family might have experienced that may be adding to the behavior that they're seeing in the teen. This is not always the case, but sometimes trauma is present and affects the dynamic. Once I've collected that information, then I'm also going to have a session with my teen client. And I'm going to collect information regarding what is it that they're noticing, what is it that they're seeing, depending on the affinity that we have, the therapeutic relationship that we're building. I may be able to get a lot of information or I may not. I'm going to respect whatever the boundaries are that my client is giving. So if my client is giving me short sentences or only a little bit of information, then I'm going to listen to that. And I'm going to validate that it can be really weird to have somebody that you don't know ask you questions about what's happening in your family. What I like to do after is I like to have a family session together where maybe we would do an activity. And so I might do something like a boat lighthouse storm assessment, and I'll put that, I'll link that intervention below so that you know what it is if you're not familiar with it. Or we might do a family game. During that session, I'm going to be observing for what are the dynamics that are present. And what is it that I'm noticing that I might also need to include in the plan of treatment for this family? As I'm thinking about those goals, the first thing that I want to target is the communication. A recommendation for a book that I really, really love for working with teenagers is this one, and I only have it in Spanish, but I think is How to Speak to Adolescents so that adolescents listen, and How to Listen so that adolescents speak. And so if you are not familiar with the book, this book is excellent. One of the things that I really love about it is that it breaks down different situations that might arise and it gives a scenario. So let me see if I can pull one for you, and I'll just show it really quickly. So as you can see, there is a cartoon with words on top. So it gives you an example of what's a usual way that we respond when, a disrespect happens, and what is a more connecting way of responding. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to either bring the book or make copies of the pages to review with the family. One of the things that I try not to do in counseling is I try not to recommend a whole book for a family to read, because I find that a lot of times it's very difficult to follow through, especially at times like right now where families are really overwhelmed. So the more that I can simplify and provide useful tools that they can walk away with, the better the results. For example, the book has a section on to punish or not to punish. So let's say that that's something that's coming up, that one parent is being too punishing to the child and the other parent is having a little bit of difficulty with the amount of punishing that's happening. So then I am going to talk with the family about what's happening. We're really going to break down the communication, and I'm going to take notes as to what happened at the beginning, how did it rise, what was the day like, what happened when this person said A and this person said B. And then I'm going to provide some education as to what happens to our nervous system when we become activated. How we can get stuck in these dances, right? And I think of anger and frustration sometimes like a game of catch, right? My parent says something to me, I become activated, and I have a reaction, and I throw that reaction back, and so my parent, feels my reaction, becomes activated, and they have a reaction, and now we're stuck in this game and this dance. But the moment that the caregiver can step away and recognize what's happening, they have some power to intervene in the situation. And so I give responsibility for the teen, and I'm having my individual sessions with them. But I also engage the parents and give them responsibility to realign the family, because parents can feel really helpless when they're really trying to connect with their child, but what's coming out of their mouth, the way that they're behaving, the way that their child is responding is really disconnected with what they're trying to do. And in turn, the child can suffer a lot. And so I validate that for the family. We read through the exercises together, so we might review some of those printouts. I'll ask them if they have any questions. I'll provide answers to anything that might come up, which usually there's a lot of hesitation, right? Like, oh, Meyleen, I've tried this before, which is something that's very common, right? Most of us therapists, we're not giving clients this like mind-blowing information that they've never heard before, right? We're really reinforcing common sense things. If I yell and I scream, am I connecting? Or am I polluting the relationship? And if I pollute the relationship with my words, with my actions, then how do we teach parents to then come back and repair? But repair in a way that is healing and connecting. And I think that the book has really good strategies for communication. But you can do that even without the book, just by hearing the breakdown of the communication. And by helping the parents to recognize when they've become activated, how to meet their own needs, and to say, you know what, stay on the PlayStation, 5 more minutes. I'm feeling really angry right now. I'm going to go calm, and then we can chat. And there's so much more connection that can happen when the parent or us as the adults, we recognize what's happening, and then we can come back and connect. But if we've become activated, we're not going to be able to access those parts of our brains that help us to think through solutions. But also the language center goes offline. So it becomes really hard for us to use words that we would use if we were cool, calm, and collected. And so the intervention is collecting information regarding the dynamics that are happening, picking one issue that the family is struggling with, using the strategies from the book, having printouts available, and reviewing with the family what happened and how do you handle it next time it comes up in a way that is connecting as opposed to dividing. We might role play some situations where the parents might be the teen, and I'm going to be responding to them as if I were the parent. And so what I might want to do here is I might want to have one session with the parents to practice these communication strategies, and another session with the teen to really work on, whatever internal concerns that might be important for me to work on. And then once a month, I'm really going to work on having a session as a family where we might be doing different activities. So this is the way that I work with families on really bridging communication. I hope that this was useful and helpful to your practice. If there's anything else that you would like to hear, please let me know. Thank you. Bye.